Who the hell's going to
The
watch
world.
it? The world.
Yeah. You're gonna be a YouTube sensation.
Oh, I see.
Oh, God.
The world needs to hear this.
See, no.
Okay, it's on.
It's on? Okay.
Yep.
I'm talking.
Oh,
Make sure you hold it as close to the person talking as you can.
okay.
All right, kiddos, can we have the background noise a little bit down, please? We're here to celebrate Anton Fritz's 85th birthday. And I did a video of my parents yesterday, and I wanted to record kind of their life stories and ask them questions so that we have something forever that our kids and your kids and the grandkids and great-grandkids can refer to, because you've been inspirational to all of us. And we want to hear some lessons on, hopefully, that we can help the future generations and have a record of your lives that we can watch over and over again forever. So that's why we're here. So the first question I'll ask is just how did you two meet?
We met at Cornell University. Nancy was working in the administration building, and I was struggling, through my classes trying to graduate.
We were introduced by a good friend of mine from high school, who was his roommate,
Okay.
Al Suter.
Incidentally, I might add that you say that you want to keep this for future generations for the evolutionary process. That thing is going to be obsolete in another 5 years. So
Yeah.
then
Well, it's going to be on the internet and saved on servers. So
The internet won't be
all right,
obsolete.
Those aren't going to
you
be
got,
obsolete.
You got me there.
What was your wedding like?
Well,
How many people did you have? at
Yeah,
your wedding?
I'll
We had
Defer to
about
Nancy.
120 people at the Little Club in Maplewood, New Jersey, which was originally a tennis club. And we had a band, and we had dancing, and it was very nice.
Did you go anywhere for a honeymoon?
Yeah, we had 3 days. We went to the,
Poconos?
Mount Airy Lodge in Poconos.
Poconos.
for 3 days before he left for 6 months in the service.
For the Army?
Yeah.
You were a lieutenant?
No, I was.
You were enlisted?
Yeah, in those days there was a draft, so I didn't want to, go in for 2 years because I wanted to get out and make money. Because we went up there we had nothing. Matter of fact, the cash that we received at the wedding was all the cash that we had, and so I wanted to get done. So there was a program where they had 6 months active duty and then 5.5 years of reserves. So I enlisted in that. I frankly enjoyed the Army. I thought, matter of fact, just as a side note, I actually legitimately took the test. Most of the guys, when they take the test, when they go in the service, they try to flunk it, so thinking that the Army won't accept them, but that doesn't mean a damn thing. So they said, well, what branch would you like to serve in? I said, I'd like to be a paratrooper. And he looked at the test and he said, we're not going to waste you on a paratrooper, jumping out of planes. We got so they put me in the artillery intelligence and operations class, and which directs fire of the artillery pieces. So I became a reconnaissance sergeant, an acting reconnaissance sergeant, and then went back and became an instructor in the fire direction control school. So I finished it there, and that served me well during reserve time and everything else. So I had it pretty easy. I enjoyed it.
What year was that?
That was, I think I went in 58 and got out in 59.
And I went back and lived at my parents' house and worked for a catering concern while he was in the service.
So, when you think about a fork in the road in your life, what was it, and why did you choose the particular path you chose?
Well, there was a rather dramatic fork in my life because I had been working on a farm for some time during the summers, and when you're 16, 17 years old, what else you know about what you're experiencing? So when I went there, and I said, well, maybe I want to become a veterinarian, and my dad was so proud, over that, and I never dreamed that I'd ever get into school because it's like 1,000 applications, all straight A students. They take 50. The next thing you know, I get accepted. And it is a tough school. Harder, people say it's harder than med school, because you got anatomy of all the species, physical, all the chemistry, the organic, biochemistry, everything else like that. So I went there for a year and was okay. It seemed like for some reason I didn't like neurology. It was precipitated a little bit by the fact that I couldn't understand the instructor. He was Swedish or some damn thing. And I just didn't take any interest in it. So one of my other friends was having difficulty with it. My other friend that I was roommating with was very smart. And so came the final exam. All I needed to do was get a 65 and I'd go on. Usually if you get past the first year, they did flunk out 5 guys. Once you get past the first year, you're in, because then it's diagnostics. It's a lot of fun. So the guy with me, who incidentally became a world-renowned orthopedic surgeon, John Marshall, who took care of a lot of athletes. And he copied down the neurology department. So he gives me the paper, and I said to myself, you know what? If I didn't have the interest to learn about neurology, because this isn't for me.
Right.
It isn't for me. And so I decided to hand in the paper, got a 60, and I got rejected from the school, got kicked out. I tell you, it looked to be a very, very bad decision initially. Disappointed the hell out of my father, but it was my decision.
Right.
And for the first 5 years of my business life, I was saying, how stupid could I have been? Because I would have enjoyed being a veterinarian.
Right.
But it just didn't click. So at that point, as a matter of fact, I was so discouraged when the first job we had, when I got out of service for a supermarket, that I applied to Heidelberg University in Germany, figuring I got Germans trying to get in there, but they didn't take me. So it was kind of a kick yourself in the ass kind of a 5 years there. But then the thing that turned it around was when I was working for a chemical company, and I went to pursue my MBA at Northwestern University, got involved with accounting and finance, and said, bingo, that's it. I loved it. It was easy for me. Things clicked, and so the rest is it, I did okay since then.
Nancy, fork in the road? Any forks in the road?
No, I really can't think of any forks in the road.
Your road was straight the whole way?
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
Who inspired you most growing up?
Well, I had a lovely next door neighbor lady that was my mentor. She kind of led me in the way that I should have gone. My parents were busy. They took care of me, but my next door neighbor Teddy was very influential with me, and I kept her in mind all the time and kept her in my heart.
Nice. Fritz, what about you?
Well, there are a number of people that really inspired me. The first thing, I was fortunate enough to, what I was working on, I worked on a chicken farm and a dairy farm, summers, for 3 years. And the family that had the farm was a wonderful, wonderful family. You got to understand that in my particular case, where I grew up in basically a German-speaking family, which we spoke German half the time, English half the time, and the other time it was mixed. You used both English and German, whatever word seemed to be appropriate at that time. So I really wasn't, I wasn't really that verbal. And they taught me a lot. They had a lot of confidence in me. They really were a great inspiration to me. And then, frankly, Nancy's father, I just adored him. He had, he just thought the world of me, and I thought the world of him. I was always amazed at his vocabulary and everything else like that. And certainly, now I lost my mother at a very young age, but my father, from his standpoint, where work equaled fulfillment, you were worth nothing unless you had a job, unless you were doing something. Didn't matter what the job was.
Right.
You know, you had to have a job. And so the loyalty that he had, the integrity that he had, was very important to me. And then finally, a very good friend of mine by the name of Russ Shelcup, who was a veterinarian, and a very successful, highly successful veterinarian, had a number of major breeding operations where he sold breeding stock all over the world. And he and I did a lot of hunting and fishing together. And he would always encourage me. You know?
Cindy.
And he said one of the most important things, that listen, you're never going to really be comfortable and successful unless you work for yourself. And that was one of the things that I always kept in the back of my mind. So he was very inspirational. Unfortunately, I lost him a couple of years ago.
Would any changes you'd make in your career do differently, even though that you had the success and kind of went on the path that you felt was your direction?
Well, success, yeah. You know, I don't think that, you know, in a general sense, that there's anything I would have done differently. It's just incidents that took place day by day. They say, why the hell did I ever say that or do that at that particular time?
Yeah.
You know, so no, I don't have anything that I would have changed in my business career.
Okay. What's Nancy? What amazes you most about our society today?
What amazes me most?
Yeah, or like, you know, from growing up to now, what's...
Well, I think it's much more complicated now than it was when we were growing up. I mean, we grew up in a fairly easy time. There wasn't all the drugs. There was not a lot going on. There was no HIV. There was nothing like that. It was kind of an easy time to grow up. And it's very difficult now, I think. I think kids have it much harder now. There's a lot of outside influence with television, internet, and I think it's much harder for kids to grow up now.
Anton,
What was the question?
what amazes you most about society nowadays?
The discord that's present in our society today. The fact that now everybody has to have a voice, I understand that. But to have major legislation, major reaction to a relatively small percentage of the population, I think is out of control because it causes so much discord. And I understand there's many people that experience despair and that have difficulty in making things, in meeting their obligations in their life. So they certainly have to be taken care of. But I think the key thing is I'm really discouraged and depressed about all the division that there is in the world today. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that we need to get along better. And we need to respect one another's opinion. You know, you may have something, but to have you sit down and say your way or the highway and me to say my way, that you're not going to get along. You've got to understand where that person's coming from, make whatever accommodations is for the good of the country and the good of everybody of this nation.
Right. The nation and the world.
Yeah.
Nancy, what are you most proud of?
Oh, probably my family. I think I have 4 wonderful kids, and I think it wasn't easy raising them. I was alone a lot of the time because Tony was working and out of town a lot. But I think I'd be most proud that they're all doing well. They've all made good decisions, and I think that would be what I'd be most proud of.
Fritz?
You know, the thing that I'm most proud of is who I married. And I'll tell you why. Because Nancy was really the one that set up many business contacts and gave me the inspiration to follow through. For example, when we first came out of the service, went to work for a supermarket by the name of Loblaws, and they were a bastard. You know, they hated college graduates. The company, the exec said, well, we need some management trainees, and these people that had worked hard, your super manager, the managers of the stores that came up through the ranks, they hated us. Okay. I got very discouraged because my work performance reports were not very good. So I told Nancy, I said, I can't take this anymore. I said, I want to get the hell out of here. She says, I'll tell you what, why don't you become the best employee they got? We'll leave here at the end of the year, and but become the best employee. That way you can disappoint them and turn the tables on. And I did that, worked my ass off, and they were just, heartbroken that I had decided to leave, And I think that was an important message to turn things around. The other thing, frankly, in my business here, after the initial stock sale of Alexander Hamilton, we were going to leave. Nancy was always supportive, never a question about should we do this, should we go there, whatever you think you want to do and everything. She always supported that. She was very frugal in the process, so we were able to get by. Although I did make fairly early, significant amount of money. But it all started with Nancy is very social. Women like her, friends like her, and she mentioned to a gal by the name of Jan Wells that my husband's in insurance, and Jan Wells says to me, he ought to meet my husband. He's a CPA, Tom Wells. Mm-hmm. So I met Tom, got along. He referred me to a lot of clients that he had, small business people. Did very well with them. And then, of course, the big one that he introduced me to was Dixter Heinrich, who Dick then said, forget the insurance business. I want to put you in structured settlements, and away we went. So it was all because of that chance location. So I guess you might say, in spite of all the educational processes I went through and all the learning and everything else like that, that was just, I was damn lucky. I was damn lucky that she got along well with her friends and got me started, because we didn't know anybody over there, did we, Nancy? Didn't know anybody.
We came over with
you haul it.
You moved here for Alexander Hamilton? Is that why you came to Michigan?
Right, yes.
and we knew nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
But I'll tell you just a little to show you how kind of naive I was. The guys, I knew the guys at Cornell. They said, hey, we're going to start a financial company. And they said, so I said, hey, that sounds great, because I was tired of working for the chemical company. And they said, we're going to start a new finance company, and I would like to have you be part of it, to sell some of the stock for us. And so I said, okay. I didn't even ask them what kind of company it was. I said, I only know one thing, as long as it's not insurance, because I can't stand insurance. They just didn't say anything. So Nancy and I packed everything we owned in an old Opel station wagon. They got a U-Haul it and came over. Fortunately, we ended up in the Grosse Pointe area, which was another lucky thing. So I went out, didn't know a soul. We were selling stock at $4 a share. There was a pretty good history of insurance company stocks rising, although the market itself wasn't that good, but insurance stocks seemed to be doing well. So it was a pretty good story to tell, but I didn't know anybody. So everybody I ran into, I said, who's the wealthiest person you know? I'd sell them some, I stopped at gas stations, pump it, get some gas. I'd say, who owns this place? Well, so-and-so. Is he here? No, he'll be here at 8 o'clock. Tell him that I got a money-making idea for him. I'll be back at 8 o'clock. That kind of stuff. So I sold. But the funniest part was, when I did sell one of those gas station guys, I said, who's the wealthiest guy you know? And I noticed he went back in a phone book, and he said, Charles Wilson. I said, well, where's he at? So he gives me his telephone number. So I call up, and I said, Wilson, I don't remember, it happened to be Wilson Automotive. But I said, listen, I have to see Mr. Wilson, because a good friend of his asked me to call him about a money-making proposition that Mr. Wilson had to listen to. So she says, okay. So I walk in at 10 o'clock, and I noticed it was Wilson Pontiac, Wilson GM dealership. So I walk in there, and I said, I've got an appointment with Mr. Wilson. And she says, the secretary says, I didn't see you down here in the book. I said, well, I called yesterday and set the appointment because a good friend of his wanted me to come by and see him, and he said, very important, it'll only take 5 minutes. So I'm here now, and she says, well, just a minute. Well, he's in conference right now. I said, this will only take a few minutes, and it's really important that we talk. So she says, okay. She opens the door, and we go in a big conference room, and here's Charles Wilson, who is from the Wilson family of General Motors, and which I didn't know.
Right.
He had 2 accountants there, 2 lawyers, 2 of his friends that also owned dealerships. And they were having a meeting. So I walk in there. He says, you know, what are you doing? I said, so I give him a pitch. I walked out of there with $125,000 stock, plus all the. Then they start referring me to all the other dealers, General Motors dealers, and and the only reason I knew, I said, boy, that was a pretty good deal, you know, because we were on a 10% commission, so I made $12,500 at that point, which is more money than I'd ever seen before. And so when I went to hand in the $125,000 at the home office, she says, Charles Wilson, do you know who that is? I said, no. I think he works for a car dealership. He said, that's the Wilson family at General Motors. I said, yeah, I got nervous.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah, had you know that going in.
I know that going in. I would have said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'll come back tomorrow. Think I can make an appointment?
Right.
I just bullshitted my way in there, And,
so you were selling
stock. The original capitalization. And
you got a commission for selling shares of stock?
Yeah. On a capitalization, you can do that. Yes, you bet.
All right.
And then, of course, it was funny after that to follow up on that. One thing I didn't want to do was sell insurance. So after we get to conclude the stock sale, and I got to know quite a few guys in there, and they then start talking about some products that they were going to introduce, which I didn't care about. And so the stock shoots up to $15. So I get a call from one of the guys I had sold some stock to. He says, hey, did you hear about the stock? And I'm saying, oh, no, that damn thing probably fall in the trash can. He says, it's up to 15. I said, hey, fantastic. He says, you got any other good deals? And I said, well, I just got back from school there, and they said that this new product that they just came out with is supposed to be a pretty good deal. Well, I'll take one. It was an insurance policy. Yeah. But then I sold all the Wilson family, all the
Right.
Sold all of it. So that's what got me started in insurance. After that, it was pretty
Smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Nancy, what advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
My 30-year-old self?
Yeah.
Mine's like 600 square feet, but I have
Oh my God. I can't think of anything right now.
Fritz, any...
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you then.
I wish, that I would probably had a little bit more confidence in my abilities, because you always have that fleeting thought, and I didn't realize it, but a lot of the people that I knew and people I was business had a lot of confidence and they really liked it. And I wish not that I would have taken advantage of that, but I just thought maybe I could have done a little bit better had I had a little bit more confidence in myself. So,
What do you wish you did less of in your life?
sleep.
Less sleep?
And of course I'm on medication.
Right.
So I tell you, it knocks the hell out of you, and boy, I could just take 4-hour naps in the afternoon, and then a full night's sleep after that. But I'd like to accomplish a bit more. But if you're tired, that's one of the things that I think also happens when you're 85.
Mm-hmm.
You start to get tired, and it's unfortunate, but it's hard. I'm not going to take any medication to jack me up.
Right.
So I'm just going to, get along and try to stay healthy as possible.
Nancy, any thoughts on what you'd have liked to done more of in your life?
No, I think I don't know. I guess I'm
Done it
pretty
all?
boring. I just figured out I had a pretty good life. I never needed for anything. I lived very frugally when we first got married. We saved a lot of money, and now we're able to enjoy it and to spread it around a little bit. And I don't know. I just think I'm very fortunate.
What family tradition do you like the most?
Getting together with the family, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whenever we can get together. I enjoy seeing all the family.
Old Mission.
Oh,
Yeah.
I miss Old Mission.
We have a lot of good memories about that, don't we?
Yes.
We took some nice
Yeah.
vacations.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah, and family comes first.
Anything else you'd like to add? Anything at all?
Well, the only thing I can add is that I guess I'm pretty goddamn lucky. Both of us are. We don't have any of the crippling arthritis or the achy knees or the achy hips, or, other than some occasional discomfort. So, we picked our parents wisely, and so genetically, I think we've been very fortunate. On the other hand, we're active. And we try to just practice good nutrition, and with the exception of a party like this, where you got
Where you have three desserts.
three different cakes that are all cream filled.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No.
so
I just think we've been very fortunate in our life. We've made good decisions most of the time, and we've benefited by them.
yeah, we've lost. The biggest heartbreak is we've lost a lot of close friends. And I don't read the obituary columns anymore because everybody's dying is younger than me. So but as long as I have my faculties and Nancy has her faculty, and that's one of the big things that I think both of us are most appreciative of, is that we haven't lost our mental acuity.
I can still do my
because-
3
Yeah.
gross crossword puzzles every single morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that we can still, being involved with business with Cynthia, Jennifer, and Carl. That's always fun. So
And Cyril, he's still in it too.
yeah, well, Cyril, I don't have to worry about Cyril. He can do his own thing.
And I do. Well, thanks for your time and sharing. It's very important, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate both of you, obviously. And thanks for being great role models
That was a
for
great idea.
all of our families.
It was a very nice idea because, as I told Cyril before, I never asked my grandparents how they met, where they lived, if they had a honeymoon or anything else. And my grandfather lived with us. After my grandmother died, my grandfather lived with us. And I never asked him any questions, and now I'm very sorry that I did.
Right.
Because I know he had a very difficult life, and he did very, very well, owning his own jewelry store in New York and gifts, wedding gifts.
Oh, I didn't even know he
From
owned a
nothing.
jewelry. I didn't know
He
anything
never-
about
he
your
never
grandfather.
graduated from 8th grade,
Wow.
and he started working in a jewelry store as a gopher, and he worked himself up till he bought it with another gentleman. When he found out the other gentleman was stealing him from him, he said, "I'll either buy you out or you buy me out." And my grandfather bought him out and had all of his people working for him through the entire depression.
Never fire anybody.
Never fired anybody, paid everybody, and he had 2 floors of a building in New York City,
Wow.
Maple Lane, right by Wall Street.
Oh, wow.
and had a fine jewelry line and wedding gifts, and was very generous, giving everybody discounts, and he did very, very well.
Was that grandma's?
My-
parents?
Yeah.
My grandmother.
Your
my
mom's
mother's
parents.
Mom's
Mother
father.
and father.
Okay.
And her mother died at 69, and so we lived with Grandpa
Okay.
and enjoyed every minute of it.
Did Grandpa live in Seagert with you then? In
Maplewood.
in Maplewood. Okay. So
Lennox Place.
they didn't move to Seagert until Grandpa died?
Okay, if we're done, I'm gonna have some Boston cream pie.
You digest. See, now you had a chance to digest, so you can have more. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was very
make
nice.
sure all those guys